All right, it's 4:55. Let's go ahead and get the drainage committee meeting started. With the recollection, all members are present. Item number 1, request approval for culvert replacements at 727 Brewley Road, Ward 2.
That's an issue at the back end of Brewery Road, 24-inch culverts. You can see with the hole that caused a collapse actually before the catch basins. It's a viable project. The culverts are probably 30, 40 years old. They all collapsed under that concrete.
All right, so we have a total cost of $8,900. Motion by Mr. Carter. Second by Mr. Blanchard. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, request approval for Lower Texas levy project excavator rental for 2 weeks. Ward 4.
This is an add-on to project number 93043. It's the original project was for $1,600. We're going to add a rental excavator for $4,000. Bring the project to $5,600.
$600 total.
Correct.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Blanchard.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carter. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, request approval for culvert replacement at 218 Virginia Street, Ward 6.
Undersized culverts, 15-inch culverts under the driveway, not draining at the back of the subdivision. It's holding back water. It would benefit to increase the culvert size to 18 inches.
So move.
And I got one question on this, Paul. Whenever y'all go ahead and install these culverts, you see how the culvert is reported to way full? Are y'all going to continue to dig a ditch?
We can't. That would be on a regular work order. If we see that the ditch needs to be swept past that culvert to get the water to drain, and while the equipment's down there, it would make sense for us to continue and sweep it.
It's time to take a look at that.
Yes, sir.
Total cost of $1,850. Motion by Mr. Carter. Second by Mr. Blanchard. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, request approval to street outfall Brewley Moran community.
This is outfall. This is outfall that drains the Brewley Moran community, about 25 houses. It's in the cane fields. It's one landowner. Should be no issue with a right-of-way agreement. It will help the water move. And actually, the picture right there that I have on there is actually on our parish right-of-way. So it's a good portion of this will be done on as a off a road and bridge, and then I guess the existing about 7,000 feet will be done with the rental excavator.
We have a total cost of $6,500. Motion by Mr. Blanchard. Second by Mr. Carter. All in favor? Any opposed?
Mr. Chair, question.
Yes, sir.
I see this is the second project where we're renting, must be a long reach excavator. Am I correct?
No, sir, it's not a long reach.
Just a
It's gonna be a
small
record 320, 60,000, it's a 54,000 pound machine. It's not a long reach.
Long
No,
reach.
sir.
Okay, all right. Keep moving.
Motion to approve. By Mr. Blanchard, second by Mr. Carter. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Paul, one question on that. After this 2-week rental is up, can we just transfer that machine to this job?
I don't see why not. I can check with the vendor, but that's where I got the quote from, and I don't see why not, because the machine, we have the machine in use, and I don't think he's got it promised out to anybody else, but I can check tomorrow.
All right, sounds good. Item number 5, request approval for a culvert replacement at 542 Bayou Drive, Water.
This is the issue with the like damage caused under the driveway. It's not a big area for drainage, but it does have some 10-inch pipes under there, and it needs to be checked and replaced. It's 24, but they only come in 14-foot length, so I need to get a 22 lengths to do the driveway.
Total cost of $1,170. Motion by Mr. Blanchard. Second by Mr. Carter. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Can you do 6 and 7 together?
All right. Item number 6 and 7, request approval for culvert replacement at 146 James Street and 141 Agnes Street, Ward 9.
Mr. Attorney requested that we draw some funds from other accounts. I'm going to elaborate on that.
On this project, for both of these projects need to be done, and the 2 projects will be $7,900. and $70 for that project. I like to pull 7 projects that I got in the books that's not gonna be done this year. Probably won't be done. Won't be done. I want to read them out. I got 92455, 92466, 92506, 92722, 92780, 92781. Is put those together to be $3,000 and 630. And then if I pull $4,340 out of project 92980, that'd be $4,340. I could do that project.
Let's explain why we're doing these projects first. What's wrong with them?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the two that we, on the book that we proposed project, the two new ones? Okay. Yeah, the one at 146 James Street, 100-foot of 24-inch plastic culvert. You can see there's a hole right after the catch basin. You know, actually, on the other side of the driveway, there's another hole. There's these plastic, old steel culverts are collapsing. They need to be replaced. And that's a project for $6,900. And the same thing on Agnes Street, 141 Agnes, you can see the big hole right past it. This culvert is collapsed. It's a 20-foot stretch to that catch basin that needs to be replaced.
James Street has 24-inch culverts throughout the entire street.
No, sir, only about the last 40-30%, right past T Street for sure.
Right.
But we want to stay with that same size.
Go ahead, motion on the floor.
You got a motion on the floor?
So that's a total of $7,970, correct? Motion by Mr. Monterey,
Is your intent to cancel these other projects?
Yeah.
So you got a motion.
you got a motion by Mr. Monterey. Thank you, Ross.
No, I'm just want to make sure.
That's second one.
Second by Mr. Carter. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, before we adjourn, can we revisit the one in your ward? I'm just trying to see how you're gonna pay for that one.
Well, Leroy catching them.
Leroy, sound like you don't.
Which one is that?
$1,170. How much?
$1,170.
1,100.
That's what you're in the red.
That's what I need. Yeah, right, I'm in the red. I'm in the red.
This is a $6,500 project.
No. 542, Pike Drive.
So Jamie, how much you need?
I'll give it out of War 7.
Thank you, sir.
Next year.
Meeting to adjourn. I mean, motion.
So moved.
By Mr. Carter. Second by Mr. Como. All in favor? Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.
I'll start the finance committee meeting. Reflect that all members are present, with the exception of Mr. Martin, who's at a Region 6 meeting today. First on the agenda is request approval to pay bills submitted through October 7th, 2022. That was previously provided to you. Motion by Diaz, second by Alcoa. All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Let's discuss and consider the revision to Louisiana revised statute 33, colon 1233 regarding police jury compensation.
I put that on the agenda. That's in reference to having a portion of your cell phone bill paid. Also, it goes into internet and stuff like that. Right now, I'm just concerned with the cell phone bill. I'm recommending that the jury approve that we get 50% of our cell phone bill paid through this fund. You have a choice to opt in or opt out as a jury. You don't have to accept it if you don't want to. That's my motion.
I shared that with you all at the, when we attended the Region 3 Police Jury Meeting in Addis. And there was a number of things that came forward. That was one of them, whereas jurors can in fact, at that time, receive $200 allotment for cell phone usage, for internet, computer, and the like, things like that, fax requirements or needs. And anything regarding doing their job relevant to, I guess, IT or so forth to help assist you. Of course, there would have to be some protocol in it, and Kim, I'm sure you've commented to that relative to, if you've got 3 phones, the jury won't be expected to cover those 3 phones for other family members. But this is already established by the Police Jury Association, so it's not a matter of it changed from $200 to $400 is what was mentioned at the Police Jury Association meeting, and that's already in action. It's just a matter of the police jury accepting it.
Right, that is correct. It is a revision to the revised statute. And in talking to attorneys regarding, it is on a reimbursement basis. So you have to have documentation to show a bill. And then the jury would have to approve, as Chris stated, maybe a percentage to reimburse, because obviously your personal phones are your personal phones. It's not 100% police jury, business. This matter does have to be approved by the jury, and it does have to have a public hearing. But then once we would do that, you all could make that approval. Again, it's not a $400 allocation automatically. It's not a certain dollar amount allocation. It's a percentage that this board would have to decide based on actual bills that are provided to the jury.
Even though it's a statute
It's a statute that is an expense reimbursable.
right, that was approved by the state legislature and also adopted by the Police Jury Association. We would have to have a public hearing. We can't just adopt it in the personnel manual. Personnel manual. And again, if we choose to use it, we use it. If we don't, we don't.
I'll read the statute to you if you like. It says, in addition to any other compensation or expense allowance provided by law, each parish governing authority which does not operate under a home rule charter may pay a monthly itemized expense allowance not to exceed $400 per month to the members of the governing authority as payment for actual expenses incurred in the performance of their duties. Such expense allowance shall be provided upon approval of a majority of the members of the governing authority after public hearing.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
That's all scheduled for the next meeting, have a public hearing.
Take any action?
Just motion on that.
I can let y'all know now, I'm totally against this.
So we got a motion. Motion for public hearing by Mr. Carter. Second by Mr. Alcorn, all in favor? Any nays?
Just in case anybody's interested, it is a general fund expenditure.
Next, we've got request approval for the president to sign fiscal year 2022 emergency management performance grant in the amount of $40,561.20. So, okay, motion by Mr. Carter, second by Mr. Alcorn. This time you only one comment?
No, I mean, we just need a resolution signed by yourself in order to push forward with this.
Is this a normal recurring grant that we have?
It's a normal recurring grant.
Very good. Okay, motion by Mr. Carter, second by Mr. Alcorn, all in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Next, request approval for the highest bidder for an old unused motor vehicle and equipment.
You see, gentlemen, I put a list on y'all, in front of y'all. All but 2 items were bid above the reserve. So that means the 2 that wasn't, we have to go back and get a salvage price on them. But there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items that will bid on properly, and we want to, I want to push that through this to go to the highest bidder. Maybe that's my recommendation, just to get them off the yard.
Motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Diaz, second by Mr. McCarron, all in favor? Any nays? Motion carries.
Paul, just make sure we get tag numbers.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, so first approval for the president to sign the second amendment for low-income home energy assistance program. It is my heat in agreement for 10/1 of 2021 through 9/30/2023. And I see an amount here of $12,309.
Yes.
Motion by Mr. Alcorn, second by Mr. Diaz, all in favor? Any nays? Motion passes. Motion adjourned.
Deviation.
Oh, we got deviation?
Kim, that's coming under
I
finance.
was gonna do it all at the end, but whatever way y'all want to do it. We have two items. One is finance and one is not. Y'all want to do it now or y'all want to do it at the end of the meeting? Y'all choose.
Let's do it.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, motion by Mr. Alcorn, second by Mr. Bertrand.
Yeah, I call the personnel committee meeting to order. All members are present. First item, request approval, probationary period for Kenny Washington to be effective 10/6/2022.
Correct. That's my recommendation for maintenance department, Mr. Kenneth Washington.
How's he doing, Paul?
Doing good.
Motion by Mr. Diaz, second by Mr. Banks, all in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Second item, discuss direction for employee evaluation for 2023.
Yes, we talked about this a while back in conversation I've had with Paul. He just wanted some clear direction as to how to proceed. The last time we talked about this back in, I think maybe April, you all said that y'all wanted to maybe go to the merit-based system. So at that point, we were supposed to do evaluations and then to make sure that the employees were very well aware of that. And here we are ready to do some follow-up evaluations. And we're just trying to make sure that that's the wishes of the jury. Paul wanted more clarification on that before he spent time to do 25 to 30 evaluations if they weren't in fact going to be really used. So it's up for discussion.
I like the evaluation by merit. Here's my issue with that. We did some promotions this year during the year with certain employees. We didn't use the merit system then. So I think that we're gonna start with it. I like to see it start beginning of the year and be active with the whole year. You know, don't start it toward the end. We didn't do it the whole year. We talked about it in January, before January last year, but then we did some promotion without using merit system.
I think those, if I'm not mistaken, those persons that did get increases were maybe job moves, weren't they?
Not all of them. What do you want to do? Chris?
So my question is, when you think the merit-based system, what about the cost of living?
Cost of living is something totally different.
Totally different, okay.
Totally different to cost of living, but merit-based, we gonna start it, let's start it January on. But be consistent with it. Nobody can do a promotion or raise without having evaluation. But also look at it and evaluate.
So we said in January, we gave all the employees the news that we was gonna go to a merit-based system. Why didn't you bring this up whenever these few employees came up?
I didn't bring it up, neither of the year brought it up. But I feel like toward the end of the year, I'm gonna do strictly measure all employees. I just think it's not fair. I'm gonna do it starting January 1 with all employees and
I think in the merit-based system, it allows you to evaluate all the employees. But throughout the year, I think there are employees, there are circumstances where, you know, if it's a job duties change or they got additional training or something like that, and a raise is justified, I think it's something that we should be considered. It should hold off until merit-based system. But the merit evaluations are for all employees to be evaluated. And those that have received their raise may not get a raise because they got it during the year.
but those that receive raises, we didn't do evaluation. That's all I'm saying. We approved the raise without looking at the evaluation. That's all I'm saying.
Right, so it's something that we need to look at going forward whenever we give a raise. I completely agree with that, but I don't want to do away with not having, without having the data to see for the evaluations. I think we still need to proceed with end of year evaluations for
Yeah,
this.
I think the supervisor needs to do the evaluations. And I think come January 1, anybody that can up for a raise, look at the evaluation and judge them off of that. The evaluation.
And the reason, just to add to that, the reason why it comes up now versus in January is because we're trying to be able to put something in the budget for those numbers in the anticipation of any increase.
So I guess just relative to this, yes, we need evaluations done
Yes. I still do
Before the end of November.
evaluation.
I plan on working on them starting for next week. That's why I just got 26 employees and everybody else only has 3 and 4. So I'm gonna start Monday next week.
Okay, so once we have the evaluations, how do you all want us to proceed so we don't just have to put it back on here again? Do y'all want to take a look at every one of them? How y'all want to handle the system?
Typically, the evaluations are for the employees. That's held by you all from that's your subordinates.
Mhm. In the past, when we've had the evaluations, the department heads have made recommendations to this board.
When you make a recommendation for a promotion, that you provide the board with that evaluation, right?
They weren't necessarily had a tangible evaluation to go along with it. It was always when recommendations were made, it was either to recommend an additional step for various employees, but there was not necessarily an evaluation attached for it. It was basically.
Because they're doing
the
something, they're doing
recommendations
something a
from
little
the
extra.
department head.
That's why you give them.
Not necessarily new direction. They could be at the same task, but just becoming much more efficient and you know.
I just think in a promotion, evaluation, so every kid has a chance to look at it and evaluate.
That's fine. We can move forward with that.
And I do agree with that to a certain extent, because you have some people that are in positions that there is no promotion. So then that person will never be considered for merit increase. Well, their position is their position. They're not necessarily transferring, you know, in our office staff, we're in positions. We're not moving around, bouncing in different positions and moving up.
Promote on transfer.
That's all I'm saying. It's not just when a position comes up where they're moving up. You know.
On performance, you get somebody peer raise.
Not a promotion, but like you said, an evaluation, merit-based raise. Yes.
With respect to the budget and how to consider in the budget, I would suggest that you come up with a total amount as for lack of a better word, the pot that would be used to distribute for merit-based raises. And then the jury would have to decide how that pot is distributed. But just come up with a number to use that we can move forward with.
There's no number because every single employee comes from a different pot. There's no one pot that the money comes from. Paul's partially road and bridge, 1%, Tommy's OEP, Donna's general fund, I'm general fund, Mercedes is CDF. It's a vast pot. So that's why we've always done it on a percentage, and we look at the individual funds and see if they.
I would use a 3% cost of living just to put a number and a one-step increase.
That would equate to a 6%.
Just to get you a number.
Put in the budget.
That's not saying you're gonna do that.
It's better to have it in than to not.
Yeah, I would.
That's a good number.
Okay.
So there's no action, man. Simple.
Do y'all have any questions, Mr.
No,
Tommy,
I'll start my
Mercedes?
evaluations Monday morning.
Y'all good?
And that's nothing we have to make a motion.
No,
Let's make a motion on it.
We want y'all to know that. Come January 1, we want to see evaluations on every party that come up for promotion. Performance,
But we set a standard to use similar or the same criteria for the evaluation.
So there will no longer be a percentage-based cost of living, right? It'll just be.
cost of living is totally different.
So performance evaluation, you can get a 1%, a 2%, or a 3%. Is that what you're saying?
No,
Still want to go with those steps.
we're doing steps. We're doing
Oh,
steps.
okay.
But typically on the scale, a step is about 3%.
I'm going to take your motion, Mr. Carter. You got a question?
What are we using for criteria for the evaluation? And that would be for this department heads.
We currently have a form that's in the personnel manual and it's available for all employees to see. We've used it before, where I think I don't have it right off my mind, but professionalism, efficiency, time management, and then there's efficient, superior, or meets criteria, things like that. And then there's I know when we did ours, and I don't know if it was March or April, I asked my employees to actually do their own. And then I did one and we got together and we talked about it, and
So
offer those same
everybody's
forms.
using the same information.
We all have the same.
Mr. Chair, I would ask that we ask the department heads to have those evaluations completed end of November so that we had December to evaluate them. So we're not evaluating them into the new year.
That's fine.
And I think we should reevaluate that form because I don't think they have a place on there where it states needs improvement.
I think we
don't
added that. I think we
okay.
did add that last year because you did bring that up. So, but we, yes, definitely.
So, everybody clear on that? Yes. Okay, got a motion on the floor, second by Mr. I can't make a motion.
No, you got a motion on the floor, as pertains to evaluations, merit evaluations, going into effect January 1. You also have part of that motion that all evaluations are to be completed by December 1st, so the jury can evaluate if there's any recommendations from any departments for merit increases.
And 6% to be put in the budget.
And 6% to be put in the budget. 3% to the cost of living and another 3% for steps.
That's a motion by Mr. Alcone. Second by Mr. Bonner, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, so last item, discuss moving forward with police jury staff report.
So at employee lunch, we spoke about maybe at a Christmas party, and I would like to move forward with getting the staff and our employees coming together, along with the jurors, along with their family, you know, their significant other, and then we'll get together and have a party.
So I can start on the agenda, have with Ms. Marie, to find out what day would be available for the meetings. Right now, we're looking at 2 days, December the 9th or 17th. The 9th is on Friday, 17th is on Saturday. So we're gonna have that all get through pretty quick.
Do Friday night.
And then you do a Friday night, people that work, have much time, you know. I mean, but it's up to y'all, whatever y'all want to do. I think Saturday.
Yeah, I just think Saturdays on before Christmas are very hard to come by. And I just think the 17th, you might not have much show because people are just with families.
So y'all rather go tonight, Friday? Okay.
What's the got any certain time y'all want to go start?
You 17? Maybe that's what it's at, too.
You can leave.
Let's say 4 hours, 7 to 11.
This is being sponsored by the governing body.
Yes.
Enough said. Individual, yes. Enough said. Enough said.
Kim, you got some plan for it? In your
Like what do you request?
just whatever y'all like, we can get some catering done. Be a DJ.
We've had, I've done the Region 3 many times before. I mean, is that the same format or
Yeah.
kind of, you know, that we're talking about?
Okay, so no action, motion to adjourn. Yeah.
Yes, we'll go ahead and get started with the engineer and grant committee meeting. All members are present except for Jeff Notke. First item is the engineer's report.
Yes, and first of all, let me apologize. I placed an updated report in front of you all, and I see that the bottom last item number 6 got slightly cut off, so I will cover that for you. Number 1, on Tackleball Landing, as you all are aware, we have issued a notice to proceed. We had a pre-construction meeting. Materials are being submitted to my office for approval, as well as the main pilings have been ordered. They're looking at delivery times. We were told somewhere around the 6 to 8 week range on some of those items. The longest lead item that we have is 6 months, and that could be the vinyl sheet piles, but they're working to see if they can get that bumped up a little bit. But as it stands right now, that project is moving forward well. Boydenville Linear Park, that project is complete. That will probably be coming off at the next meeting.
Bayou Drive Bridge repairs, that project is also complete. We submitted that bridge to DOTD for them to do the rating at their cost, as opposed to the jury having to go out and get that bridge rated. We haven't heard back as to where they stand with that rating, but the bridge is open and operating. Some comparative road program, 21 road program, punch list items are being completed. I will be still meeting with each of you. I have met with a couple of you so far. I also met with Mr. Alcorn and myself, met with the contractor to discuss some of the punch list and the warranty work that's still outstanding out there, and we're scheduling that work to be completed with him, hopefully within the next 2 weeks, and get that buttoned up and closed out. 2023 program, we've been kind of filing a list of streets, and I am currently working on updating the specifications and also looking at asphalt, better asphalt mixes, because we're seeing some deterioration in some of the asphalt mixes that we've been getting lately, and that has to do with the aggregates and so forth that are coming in. DOTD has some new asphalts that have come out that they have approved, and so we're looking at those to see if we can get a better bang for our buck, so to speak, out of the asphalt that's being put down. Assumption Parish sewer generators, that project is complete. We are in the process of doing a final cost summary. We actually submitted that cost summary to the state. They had some adjustments. I think it's not every, I don't know if there was like maybe $100 or so left in the EPA grant fund, so we have to adjust that budget to match. But I should be able to finish that up by tomorrow. Public Works Office Building, if you look, I provided you with an updated cost estimate. An updated cost estimate for that building, as well as a budget description and so forth to be submitted for capital outlay funding. And that was turned over to Mr. Leonard today, so that he can move forward with submitting that under capital outlay. Oak Lane levee and pump system. Basically, that project was awarded to Landry Construction Services. The levee system now is complete. Platforms were put in. I must apologize. I am not aware or not whether or not Energy has finished installing the electrical there. I know we've been going back and forth with trying to get them out there to set a pole. I had met with them.
The permit has been issued, the pole is completed, the VFD power is on the deck, and we're working on installation on the phone.
I appreciate it. Appreciate that very much. LA 70 emergency pump and ring levy. I sent you all an email earlier today with the latest update that I'm receiving from the Office of Coastal Management. That project came off of 30-day notice earlier at the end of last week, and they are now basically turned it over to their enforcement division. And what that means is they're trying to decide whether or not they are going to require any mitigation for the materials and so forth that were previously placed in the wetlands under the Emergency Act. It is 0.03 acres, which is a very minute amount. I have never actually had them, I'm going to say I've never actually encountered where they have enforced a fine or a mitigation for such a small amount. So it doesn't mean that they're going to come back with anything. It's being reviewed by them.
So that level is there ready. We want to repair it and then want to total mitigation.
No, this was the ring levee that was installed during the flood plain under an emergency. And they are looking at whether or not they are going to require mitigation for the material that was placed in the wetlands. Doesn't mean that they are, it does not mean that they are, it's under review by the enforcement division, and we are awaiting that response. And I got that information as late as this afternoon, and that's when I forwarded it to you all.
Isn't this in the state right away?
Yes, it is.
It is, but it's
It's already
still,
been mitigated.
it's still would have mitigated with the path of the road.
It did.
They did, and that's the stance we're taking. I'm simply informing you of the status of where it is. I'm not saying that they are charging you mitigation. I'm telling you, this is what it's under review for those purposes.
Joe,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have your mic on?
Yeah.
Okay, we need you to take it off.
Yeah.
We're getting some feedback that we're having some interference. This is our first live, so we need to keep the mics off for right now, okay?
Okay, sure.
It's picking up some contradiction.
2021 Parish Fire Hydrant Installation and Rehabilitation. I am happy to report that we received about 32 of the 35 of the 75 hydrants that were ordered. They're in storage right now on Ezekiel Street. We're coordinating with the waterworks and the fire departments and the contractor to more or less reevaluate the priority list that was set, because some of those hydrants, as after speaking with the water department, they told us since it's knocking on 2 years old, there were some things that were taken care of by the water department because under their regular allocations. So we're just going to make sure we don't double dip or and have that still on the list. Once we reduce that, the contractor will get to work. So I'm hoping to be able to report to you in the next meeting. We'll have a time frame and have them actually on site working on these hydrants soon. We are expecting the remaining 32 remaining 33 hydrants to be in sometime at the end of next week is when they're scheduled to come in. Now, we've been receiving dates pretty regularly. Those dates are constantly getting pushed back, but the latest we have is that they are to be here by the end of next week. Parish-wide sewer upgrades. We applied for additional funding under the Louisiana Watershed Initiative projects. We completed scopes and estimates. The grant has been applied for. We are now in phase 2 of that grant. We are also identified the U Virginia Street to be applied for funding under the CDBG, as well as the water sector grant both. And so basically whatever funding comes in, that's, whichever one gets here first, we utilize that funding and then branch it out to utilizing those different areas.
The CDBG is for the road project only, right?
Correct,
Not
for drainage and road, correct. But there's, you have Belrose Lane, which is a drainage and road project that's being applied for under CDBG as well. I think if you remember at my last recommendation at the meeting, we were applying for both sets and basically going to utilize the monies as they came in to cover the cost, because I think some of the sewer money, if I'm not mistaken, the sewer money is whatever's not funded by water sector will be funded by, and I don't want to say this wrong, but I want to say the American Recovery Act funds, or not necessarily, I want to say CARES Act. I don't think that's correct.
You're right.
So that's how we're applying for those.
But we're not applying for a CDBG for the U Virginia sewer plant.
No, but there's a road portion to that project.
Okay.
Yes, I apologize. I understand your confusion, but there's a road portion to that project. But we are applying for the whole thing, if you will, under water sector, including the road. But we're also applying for the road portion under CDBG along with Belrose Lane as well. That way, we're kind of throwing everything at the dartboard, and hopefully we get, whatever we get approved, we have monies to supplement in other areas. But you're correct. I misspoke there. It's just the road portion of that U Virginia project.
When are they coming back to repair some of the roads that we just got fixed?
That was what I was covering when we were talking about.
It went pretty quick on it. You didn't.
I can
Just
back
a
up.
2 weeks
Sorry.
completion.
I spoke with the contractor
That was 2 weeks every week.
again. I spoke with him again yesterday. He had some personal issues, and it's why they had to pull out of the parish for out of respect for that contractor, I'm not gonna mention what those personal issues were, but we are looking at the next 2 weeks. Mr. Alcorn and I met with him last week. We went over those issues that are outstanding. So I just need to get with him to get them nailed down, to be in the parish and try to nail them down over the next 2 weeks, because we've itemized everything that wasn't completed. And we've got to get them done. And we're still holding his money until that takes place.
Was he aware of some of these issues that you had?
Some of them, yes, he was considering them. It was under his impression that he considered them warranty items, which he does have a 1-year warranty on the street. And according to him, he was monitoring them. We're looking at them. We look at them as the engineer on the project. I look at it a little differently. I'm looking at it as, okay, a warranty is something that would occur after substantial completion and a road starts to deteriorate or something happens. That's what I consider a warranty. If there is something with that asphalt that is called out prior to that substantial completion, and I see a deterioration in the road, I don't consider that warranty. I consider that, hey, that's punch list as part of the initial payment. So it was an agree to disagree, but regardless of how it's done, we're taking the stance that whether, I don't care whether you call it warranty or whether you call it punch list, it needs to be replaced.
2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
See that?
Okay, I think it was on Platinal drainage improvements is the next one. We did finally get approval on the engineering from the state under capital outlay. That project is currently under design. We have completed the surveys. We'll be coming to you with a preliminary set of plans probably within the next, I would say, 30 days. We'll have a preliminary layout for you all to look at, along with some preliminary budget numbers as well to show you what we're doing and how we plan on completing that project. A Lake Verret drainage slough. If you all are aware, we did obtain the permit for this project, and the survey was approved. The cost of the survey was approved for GIS at the last meeting. We're just simply awaiting for them to go out and perform the survey. So we'll have a tight time frame on you. I can get with Mr. Lusky after the meeting and see if they can try to
Next week.
knock down.
Right.
I don't want to put him on the spot.
They should be there next week. That's great.
Okay. That's fine. Water infrastructure grant application with GIS. The first application, of course, was submitted and completed. That got denied in the funding cycle. A second application has now been completed and submitted, and we are waiting to hear on award of that application. Lee Drive and Lee Drive / Bayou Drive repaving. Lee Drive, as you all know, we have submitted those plans now, have been delivered to the state and are under review by the state architect. Once we receive approval from him, at that point, we will be allowed to place that project out for bids. Bayou Drive repaving, that is another section that we are submitting under water sector grant monies, because that does fall and qualify for those sections to be raised. So I realize I grouped them there together. In the future, I will be separating those two as they move forward.
Are you sure water sector? Not water sector for raising the road.
Yeah, we did it under both water sector and it's not, is that one CDBG?
CDBG for
For that section. My apologies, gentlemen. My apologies. I will get that repaired. I apologize about that. I have that listed under the wrong place. Remove that, put it under CDBG. Next is Go Mesa 1.5 million funded drainage projects. Bertrand outfall cleaning, those plans and specifications are complete. And I think they're up to be addressed later on tonight's agenda on how you all wish to move forward. The Monterey drainage improvements, we have identified a scope of work. We have a budget set for that work, as well as there were some pumps. There were 2 pumps that were listed under the Lower Texas area, and it was recommended for purchase by the parish. I think you all had approved purchase of those pumps along with 2 pumps that went in the Bayou Lewis area at the same time. So we will be getting with Mr. Blankenship, and whenever those pumps come in, we can help facilitate the installation at that time. The Oak Lane project, we covered that earlier. As you all know, he's now told you that they will be completing that survey hopefully by next week. Mike, yes.
Joseph, I'm just reading your, under the appendix. Why does the Monterey area drainage improvement, why is it referencing Lower Texas?
Because we had grouped that project when we did the overall description for the Monterey drainage area. We included all that into one large scope of work.
Okay, but we got a Lower Texas at the bottom.
Wait, say that again?
So we have a Lower Texas drainage improvement on I.
Yes. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Okay. It falls under a large scope, but then once it's identified for and how it's going to be funded, in other words, if it's done under GOMESA and so forth, the Lower Texas portion, the parish chose to basically take care of that under their own manpower because it's simply a pump purchase. It doesn't necessarily require design by my firm or anything to get those Lower Texas pumps included. And I need to separate that better so that it's more clear.
But we wanted to make sure it was included for improvement.
But you're correct. I can separate that out and make it clear. Okay. Are there other questions? Okay. Oak Plain Levy project, we covered that. Mr. Blankenship told you that they have installed the pole and the VFD drives are out there. So I'll be getting with him so that I can keep that more current and up to date on my report. Bayou St. Vincent cleaning and bridge replacements. That project is being submitted as part of the GIS plan for federal government funding. Lake Barrett Slough opening we've covered. Lewis Lane drainage improvements. We identified a project and a cost estimate, and it would proceed if approved under the GOMESA funds, whichever direction you all decide to take there. And I believe right now you're looking at going out for RFQs for engineering and so forth. But as from my office at this point, only thing identified, we have a cost estimate and a description of work prepared. Ward 9 street and drainage improvements. That's another one that's being sought for funding by GIS engineering. And once we can identify, we've identified, as you all know, under that larger federal plan that was submitted by GIS, they identified a number of streets and things that needed to be raised. So we'll probably start issuing a separate report on that one by itself because it is such a wide scope. I mean, you got a lot of areas and things that we talked about as far as the Ward 9 street drainage improvements. LA 70 pump and ring levy system. As you know, we reported where we are with the permit. Once we receive that permit, we'll be coming to you with how you wish to proceed forward with getting it completed. And again, Lower Texas drainage improvements that falls under those pumps that were purchased or authorized for purchase at the same time as the Bayou Lewis pumps. That's 2 pump stations that he has in the Lower Texas area. They're existing. The decks are somewhat deteriorated and the pumps need to be replaced. And parish-wide street drainage improvements. We have mapped out pretty much all of the streets in the parish. We have identified all of the major canals, tributaries. we're able to piggyback a lot of that information on some of the work that was previously done by GIS. So we were going to be coming to you, working with them to identify some projects that can be brought forth, whether it be locally or funded by federal dollars. The drainage pumps via Lewis, as I understand it, those pumps have been ordered by Public Works. I'll have to get with Mr. Blankenship to get you a delivery status and when those will be coming in. Belrose Lane drainage improvements. That project has been surveyed and it has been submitted, or being submitted rather, under LCDBG funding program, as well as the Go Mesa funding. So depending on whether or not funding is received under LCDBG, that it would then come off or be supplemented by Go Mesa if required. Are there any other questions?
You also work with GIS for Gerald Street letter, right?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, we got that, that cost estimate for that survey was approved at the last meeting. So I think they're gonna be surveying that once they complete the Lake Barrett Slough one first.
See on Lee Drive, repair, you got a completion date estimated January 23.
And we're gonna have to redo that. I'm waiting to see when we get approval from the state, and then I will have a better time frame on it. That was an estimated date that was previously put on when we first finished the plans, assuming at that point we were able to go out to bids. Unfortunately, we were not, because it still had to go before Mr.
Leonard, have you talking to Mr. Jim Ryan? Is he in receipt of everything he needed?
I've emailed him, but I haven't heard back yet.
Could you please follow up on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
So all these projects were approved under the 1.5 Go Mesa allocation. There's 3 or 4 projects that are also in the group of the federal funding. Do we want to leave those projects here? Because don't look like we're going to have enough in the 1.5 to cover it. If we're going to group them into the federal, try to get the federal money, like St. Vincent Canal, Ward 9, street drainage, and probably parish-wide drainage. So they're in the 1.5, look like they're gonna, just my opinion, look like those 3 projects right there can eat up a big portion of funding. And then we're going after the federal money. Do we take it out of this and just put it back towards in the funding, the federal funding side? That's just my question.
My recommendation would be to leave it. My recommendation would be to leave it where it is and apply for both. I wouldn't take it out of. I wouldn't take it out of any particular funding cycle until you've got money in hand, because you may need, depending on what comes in from as far as the federal dollars are concerned, you may need another pot to supplement it if it's over, or it may end up being funded fully. You can always remove it at any time. And put that money towards other projects. I think overall, as a jury, you all know you got more than enough projects identified. I think that was clearly spelled out, especially with the last report that we had from GIS. There are plenty of projects out there where the money can be utilized. So I wouldn't, just as a general recommendation, I would not remove any project from any particular funding cycle until funding is actually nailed down and spent for that project.
My question for saying that, based off the scope of work and design, we could be over budget of that 1.5 just with basically those 3 projects. That's just my thoughts.
You can't really pick those projects. There may be some other projects in there too.
Well, no, I'm not trying to say nothing against your project. I'm just saying it could be over this budget, based off the budget he gave to try to go get federal money. I think we're gonna be over. That's just my opinion.
I think our approach, and we have a couple of agenda items a little bit later in this committee meeting that's going to address it, but we need to look at getting the engineering and design done through the funding that we have and have these projects shovel ready. That way, whenever it comes to the federal funding, the projects are ready to go. So we don't take them out now. We just get the engineering and design done so that the projects are basically on the shelf ready to go.
I agree.
Right.
100%. Right on, Mr. Chair.
Okay, that's it for the engineer's report.
Is there any further questions?
So see, I was unaware that we removed a report from Mr. Lusky from the agenda. Was the intent that this engineer's report includes a report from both of them, or?
I don't know. I don't know, this might be a typo.
I'm just not sure why it was, so I know that agenda item was repeating every meeting,
Yeah,
and obviously someone asked for the engineer's report to be put on there.
I did, but I don't know how Lusky's was removed, but.
So I guess I'm asking that the GIS give a report within this agenda item before we move on.
I need an engineer.
Well, the plan, the master drainage plan is complete, so we.
It's not complete.
Our funding is complete, what we've contributed.
It hasn't been delivered to us in final form yet. That's
Well,
the,
I know, but our apologies, we'll add it back. We didn't think he had to,
Well, he can
Come
go
back
ahead
up
and
to
give it
just say-
right now
Give
with
it
his
report now.
engineer's report
You know.
right now.
we'll put it back on.
Yeah, he can give it right now.
I mean, we assumed when y'all went to Washington, the report was delivered in.
That was over.
No, that was.
No, we know it's not over, but I mean, we're waiting for funding and
Yeah.
didn't know that it was gonna be a repetitive. We'll put it back on.
While he's handing that out, this report that we have is obviously gonna be a changing, growing. Things are gonna fall off, things are gonna be removed as they're completed and things are gonna be added. If there's anything in particular that you want a status report on that you don't feel was touched on here, please feel free to contact me or my office. You know, obviously with a little bit enough time to present you with something at this meeting, but we'll certainly add it to the report.
Good afternoon, guys. Jacob Lusky, GIS Engineering. So today's update is more so a progress and next steps forward. So over the last couple of weeks, or since as of last week, we did a few things as far as form site. I bulleted it here. So as far as progress goes with the drainage master plan and looking at some of the additional areas, we did do a site visit with the survey group to look at Ward 7, 8, 9 levies. We continue drafting the narrative for the report itself based from the modeling aspects of it. Everything and meanwhile, the other reports of the report is under internal review. We did have discussions with NRCS, the Upper Delta Group, and Port of Morgan City Director, Mr. McWade, and just in conversations, not formal meetings, but just to see what their stance was on the Amelia Levy project. And everyone was in favor of it. So no one seems to be against that particular large project that everybody in this room knows about and is advocating. So wanted to touch base on that. We participated in the design support program for the Coliseum Canal project, which was the LWI application round 1. And with that call, Leroy, Paul, myself, and my team got with the design support assistants. It's a technical review team that is contracted by the state and by OCD, the Office of Community Development. And they basically went through as a kickoff to say, this application was worthy, but something's not adding up, but we understand that it is a good project. And it finished and ranked high amongst all the applications that came in. With that, they provided a comment review sheet from VOTD's review team, OCD's review team, CDBG, and hazard mitigation review team, LDQ, and Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. So all those guys had at least one person or a team reviewing all these LWI applications that go in. And with that, they came back and they had some concerns on the accuracy, and some things just wasn't adding up in the inside of the application. So the next action item that came from that is to reconvene. Probably there's 27 of these out there, and this is not guaranteeing funding, but these were the 27 that look favorable to get funding. So it's still in good standing. And the action item that left was to review the application that was sent in and review the scope and make sure that things align with the comments and address the comments that came from these 5 agencies. So with that is the next phases. We're looking to it, and once that response is complete and the scope is done, it's a chance to rescope the project and submit it back to them for their accuracy. The design technical assistant's gonna review it and say yes or no, give his guidance or their guidance, and then take it back to OCD and run back and forth. And close that gap. This all has to take place, the goal is December of this year. I asked them if there is a, so to speak, race. Do we need to hurry up, address it, get it back to you, and are we competing against the other 27 for funding? And the answer was he needs to check back on it, but his belief is no. There was $100 million allocated for these 27 projects. So the next 27 on that list accounted for what was submitted, $100 million. So some of these rescopings may increase the cost, may decrease the cost, up or down, we don't know just yet. So that was some of the concerns that he did have. But I'll open with Mr. Leroy. You have anything that I might have missed?
I guess the one thing is, he said that this was like round 1.5. So it wasn't round 2 that it was awarded. It was kind of projects that were flagged in round 1 that they wanted to award, but because of the comments from the other agencies, they pushed them back. Well, they want to get these cleared out before they move on to round 2. So that's the part of this design assistance team review. And his initial review of it, he said that he believed that the project can be rescoped and that both ends, the end near between Hard Time Road and LA1 and the wooded area, both had some validity to it. They just needed to understand what needed to be done in each of those 2 sections for the positive benefit. And after reviewing the comments, I understand why there's some concern. There were some structures that were indicated that they were protected by this project, and they clearly are not. So there were some inaccuracies in the application. That's why we're reviewing that application to correct it for them. And through this rescoping, we're allowed to essentially provide any corrections in our application so that we can make it more accurate.
And I'll give the status updates on as we proceed. So we're pushing, we're gonna push to try to get, we want to be the first ones. We want this to be, we want to lead the pack. Just due to funding or rescoping issues. We don't want it to come back. So that was last Friday, I believe, or Thursday. Submitted resolution and request to CPRA. Submitted that this morning to Mr. Brent Haas, CPRA, and asked that he puts the Amelia Job project on the master plan consideration. Also the Bell River pump station on, which is from our model, on the master plan as well, as part of the Bayou Sorrel and the whole series of pump stations that we want to make for the whole system. So put that into the master plan for the what we're calling the Upper Terrebonne.
It could fall by the benefit for the ship,
It's,
project?
they're gonna consider it in the master plan. All that is gonna do is document it. So they pulled it out due to lack of funding, but no one can point to a reason why they took it out. So they're gonna put it back in. And that way they have to look at it every day, every time, and evaluate it. It also helps us push forward with funding. It's in the master plan, you know, so. So that next one is part of the path forward. I called for Mr. Haas and I couldn't reach him. I called for Mr. Sawyer with Graves administration, couldn't reach him. And next I called Mr. Wingate in the Corps. Couldn't reach him. So I went 0 for 3, but I'm still pushing, and that's really the next steps. Or is when it pertains to schedule. The schedule is to, well, let's go to the next steps in order. So the next ones is complete and submit the drainage and master plan. So get it all bound, present it in a document format, and we'll have that in hand. Schedule meeting with the Corps, Graves administration, and CPRA to review the actual plan and sit down with them. Begin meetings with delegation to educate the master plan projects in support of the LWI applications we'll be putting forward. Along with capital outlay and statewide flood control program. That's maxes out at 5 million for that application, but there's a 20 million, or they only selected 4, and there was little to hardly any competition in that program last year. So hopefully we can utilize that avenue. Assist with capital outlay as needed. That is due November 1. So in 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, that is due. So Any assistance needed, let us know. And then attend council of Watershed Management meeting. It's Monday, a week and a half away. October 24th at 2 p.m. in the Capitol. So we'll be attending that too. That's the LWI committee, basically. Not on this, just as a side note, that the water sector is meeting next Friday, and that the Assumption Parish Police Jury water sector application is under review and in progress. So as far as the status update, it went from submitted to full-blown under review. So it's in the portal, it's being reviewed currently. So that's a sidebar. That's for the water and sewer program. And then as indicated earlier, on a schedule, it's not really a schedule. We need to get it done. So it's ASAP. It's meeting with delegation. Don't let the Washington trip fall by the side. Let's get back in front of it, keep that ball, keep the momentum running. Get with the core, CPRA, and at least one or two of you guys to present with us, and go sit down with the core, CPRA, and our delegation, you being Graves or Representative Letlow, for this region, for this district. So get with them and then sit down, hear the core out, talk about the Mississippi River and tributary study, the MRNT study, which called all of these things out. So anyway, that's the next step of funding. Maybe get with Kennedy and Cassidy as well. And circle back with Bubba on the MRT study, because he was really mentioning hitting home.
And he had requested some documents from GIS relative to the MRT study.
That's right.
So just to let everyone know, they have found those documents. Everything's been identified, ready to send on to Senator Kennedy's office.
That's right. So that's the update. And more questions.
And I guess the important note on that, if it's found to be by Congress under the MRNT study, that's 100% funded by the Corps. If it's not, then there would be a match from some other agency, whether it be the parish, the region, or the state. But so the push to get it on the MRNT.
And the other portions of it was the Bayou Cheyenne extension, which that levee's down there now, even with the barge gate we just sunk, or not sunk yet, but they put in place and implemented. Other one is Morganza to the Gulf, and some other pieces have been constructed in Morgan City also from the same study. This one piece is what's missing. So it's identified by Congress.
The flood control program, is that a revolving application date, or is there a fixed window to apply?
That one is due by March of next year. And Terrebonne Parish was awarded the industrial pump station.
In the amount of,
Which was, the pump station was like 12 or $13 million, but 5 million came from this, and the parish funded the rest.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the next item. Request approval for a MOU between Assumption Parish Police Jury and Terrebonne Parish Council on the use of Assumption Parish Community Center in the event of the evacuation of Terrebonne Parish.
All right, so I put this on the agenda last meeting. I presented a copy of the MOU that Terrebonne Parish had drafted up for the police jury to sign. We agreed to table this until I could get additional information. I emailed Mr. Hughes, Earl Hughes is the OSEP director for Terrebonne Parish, and he's here tonight to maybe answer any questions. I also emailed Major Jessica Lacoste with DCFS. DCFS is the one that we'll be managing the community center as a special needs shelter. The last email I got from Major Lacoste says this: after speaking with DCFS EP director, there should be no issues with the MOU between Assumption Parish and Terrebonne Parish for the use of the Assumption Community Center. He contacted the LDH representative, Dr. Pratt, for further guidance and to bring up the existence of a potential MOU at the medical special needs shelter. In the event of an emergency, they will make a determination on utilizing the one at NSU, Nicholls State University, if the Assumption Community Center is occupied. And we're not talking about all the residents in Terrebonne Parish. We're talking about the residents that are in temporary trailers as a result of Ida. So I'd love I've asked Mr. Hughes to kind of speak a little bit further to that and maybe answer any questions that y'all might have.
Good evening, members of the police jury and parish staff. My name is Earl Hughes. I'm the Director of the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness in Terrebonne Parish. Thank you for the opportunity of being here tonight. As Tommy has said, presently we have about 3,000 families in temporary trailers in Terrebonne Parish. It's an average of about 9,000 people that's in a temporary trailer. Immediately after the storm, the issue came up with how do we shelter 9,000 people in our parish, because we've never had to prepare for 9,000 people. We usually prepare for 3,000. So we started looking for buildings within our parish, and we had to extend outside the parish. We also have an agreement waiting to be signed by Nicholls State University in the same regards. The issue is these trailers will not withstand a tropical storm, Category 1 and Category 2 storm. So I have to provide shelter for them somewheres. So the use of the Assumption Community Center would be an overflow if I needed it. Once again, it's only for Category 1, a Category 2, or Category 3, tropical storm 1 or 2, Category 1 or 2, a tropical storm. I'm looking for 24 to 36 hours. Just enough for the storm to pass over Terrebonne. When the tropical storm force winds get below 34 miles an hour, we move those people out of the community center as quickly as possible back into Terrebonne Parish and buildings that we know we could use on a day-to-day basis as sheltering. If you have reviewed the agreement, we would pay for all costs for all personnel involved with working at the gym, or that may be needed, such, janitorial services. We will pay for the gym to be cleaned afterwards. We're also in agreement to pay a rental fee as long as we know what the rental fee is ahead of time, so that we can put it in the agreement if we need to use it for those few days. In the event that Nicholls is not available for some reason or another, and the center needs to be used as a special needs shelter, we're in talks with DCFS and LDH that we could share some space in there if that needed to be done. So I'm hoping that after this hurricane season, I won't need the MOU, but there aren't any guarantees of how many people will still be in temporary housing at the beginning of next year's hurricane season, June 1st. So that's why the agreement is through December of 2024. So I appreciate you guys looking over the MOU, and we would appreciate it if we could get some concurrence on the MOU in the event that we need to use your facility. And I'm answer any questions. Yes, sir.
Any attention on security at any of the facilities, be it at Nicholls or at the
So for security at Nicholls, we would use Thibodeau Police Department or the Sheriff's Office, whoever they decide that would take over. The same thing with the community center. We would pay Assumption Parish if they would provide the security with the Sheriff's Office.
Is it in the contract? I don't think we saw it.
I don't see anything about that, but,
Well, we would have to have a separate MOU with the Sheriff's Office.
yeah, that's what I was just about to
You
say.
know,
The sheriff's
yeah.
office would have to handle
It'd be a
security.
separate MOU.
Okay, great.
And we've done that in our other parishes that we're in, such as Washington Parish. We've done the same thing.
And I would ask, maybe you could help me with that. I'm asking this council, do you all see any problem with this? If Terrebonne's in trouble, where is the assumption based on the threat? And maybe you can speak to that.
So we're talking about a tropical storm or a Category 1 or a Category 2 storm. Typically in Terrebonne Parish, for a tropical storm 1 or 2, we open up one facility and may get 50 to 60 people in that facility on those what we call minor storms. I don't think any storm is minor anymore, but they're not classified as major storms. So in the event, I mean, we would share the facility if we had to. I mean, if that was necessary.
You got any questions?
I know we only use our facility as a last resort.
Well, I think their problem is
Those small.
those famous trails.
Now,
You
all right,
can't
so,
leave them people in them trails.
but having said that,
Mr. Hughes, is it in this contract about, you mentioned a rental fee that you all would be willing to pay? I
No,
don't.
ma'am, it's, no, the spot is in the MOU. Under, attachment A, it says, rental agreement or rental rate. It's not filled in because we didn't get any rate from you guys. We're willing to pay the rate because if we use your facility, I'm gonna get reimbursed from FEMA anyway. So I don't have a problem paying for rent or for personnel or anything as far as it goes with you utilizing the building, including diesel for the generator, all of those issues. We're prepared to pay for that. Now, once again, it would be an itemized invoice to us, and then we would submit that to FEMA.
Okay, I apologize. I don't see any exhibits in here.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is approve the MOU and then go ahead and get the language particulars.
No.
Well, we need the particulars to put in the
Let's get the
MOU.
particulars, see what we would like to be put into the contract, send it back to them, and then we go ahead and see if
We're not
they agree
against
to
it.
it.
We just
but
gotta
you,
get the-
you
No, we're not
addressed,
against it.
you addressed shelters. Now, currently, we don't utilize that facility as one of our shelters.
Right.
Well, it was built to be used for that.
Correct.
Even
but
though
it's
we hadn't done it, that's what it's built for.
Not for
Right.
shelter last
Okay.
resort, not for routine shelters.
Not for routine, but it's a
Yeah.
medical special needs shelter, and there again, we work that problem out.
But this board has to understand, when Terrebonne Parish might get hit by a storm, we may not, and we may have that facility completely hooked up. So we have to realize and make sure that we're gonna, have to refund all that money, and we need to make sure we cover it.
Cover that.
I think the important part of this that I didn't understand until the email exchange was that this is to address the housing shortage in Terrebonne Parish right now, and the people living in temporary housing.
Temporary housing.
And so the amount of evacuees that Assumption Parish would have would be very small compared to those coming from Terrebonne, just because of the circumstances. So it's not a matter of they're taking up the space that we have. We wouldn't have a mandatory evacuation for a tropical storm 1 or 2. So we wouldn't be opening the shelter anyway. We're just giving them a place to go to get out of their mobile
Yeah, but we
home.
don't open shelters for mandatory evacuations. We open before. I mean, once it's mandatory,
They're
there's
out of
shelters, they're out of here.
Yeah.
Our shelters come before we get to mandatory evacuation.
If you don't
Our shelters
mind,
come after,
let's,
when they come
let's,
back.
Mr. Tommy, let's hear from council. legal.
Legally, again, with this particular MOU, I have no real issues. It's more about housekeeping. And I think the director of the community center obviously needs to play a role in this because she's the one who oversees the bookings in addition to the rental fee and any reimbursements that need to be made. And I just want to be clear. So you would pay if on that rental rate on Exhibit A, you would pay that upfront, then you would be reimbursed. We wouldn't be waiting for FEMA. You would be waiting for FEMA.
That's correct. And I will pay you, if you look through the MOU, I will pay you 3 days of that rental rate up front.
So we need to, those things need to be determined as well in direct coordination with the director. So that way we understand exactly what's going to have to be canceled, what the rental fee will be, and then all the reimbursements that will need to be made by Terrebonne Parish. So I think, again, legally, I have no issues with the MOU. It's just the housekeeping of putting it into place.
And I do note on here that Terrebonne Parish would be willing to reimburse for time by this parish workers. But would the expectation be that our workers would employ that facility while you are there?
No, ma'am, we would provide the people to run that shelter. In fact, we have an agreement with DCFS to come in and help us in the event that we would. I got to open up 13 shelters if this occurs because of the number of people that I have. So DCFS has graciously said we will come in and help you run those shelters. I just, you got a maintenance person that's going to be there. Somebody, if there's any issues doing inside the building that we may have to pay for, whatever it takes to keep that building and that facility running while we're in it, we're going to pay for those.
Right, I understand that. We're just short on staff to provide a full staff to run that place.
Right.
We don't have that many extra people.
One more thing, I think we need to get with Ms. Maria and let her look at the rental contract for that building. I know in the contract it states that if we use it for emergency, we can cancel the contract. But say another agency come and use it for emergency, that's not a contract. So I think we make some changes in the contract also.
And I can't tell, but I know we reviewed it recently. I would have to specifically look for that to make sure that we're in accordance, so we don't get into issues with those renters.
Yeah.
So my question is we've got a drafted MOU, Terrebonne drafted an MOU, send it to us. I would imagine we need to look over, make any red line changes, send it back to Terrebonne, for them to review and make any various red line changes that it may need to be, but the police jury is not opposed to signing this once all this has been done. Am I,
That's correct.
because I don't want to speak for Terrebonne.
That is correct. So you need a motion on the floor for something, or just,
We're gonna table it.
We're
We're gonna
gonna
table
work
it.
on those housekeeping
We're gonna table-
deals, get a more concrete agreement and bring it back when we feel we're ready to approve.
So the other thing I would like to bring up, if possible, is that we would like to go into an MOU from you guys to us in the event that your parish is destroyed to the point to where you need to bring your evacuees back and you need a place to put them, that you could use our buildings in Terrebonne Parish if they're not destroyed and they're still in use, so that you guys would have a place to bring your people back closer in the event that you evacuated. So we had that agreement with St. Mary Parish. So we brought our people back from Monroe. They stayed in St. Mary Parish for a few weeks till we could get everything set up in Terrebonne to bring them back. And then they came back into Terrebonne. So we're open to do that with you guys if you want to. We just have to get an MOU to do that.
Now, I would like to pursue that because my understanding from talking to John Boudreau is the time that they evacuated Assumption, that was a problem bringing the people back in.
We did that with the food. Yeah.
But John had expressed that there was some problems trying to put the people when they were starting to bring them back and their houses was destroyed, but they wanted to be close to their house and be able to repair it.
Right.
So I think that's a great thing that Mr. Hughes has suggested.
Thank y'all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So they meet every other Wednesday. So hopefully.
Okay. Thank you.
Next item, request approval for subdivision of property along Mason Lane and Bell Road, Ward 1.
Good afternoon, I put the placard in front of you. I gave the copies to Mr. President to sign those or whatever. It has been approved. John and I worked on this before he left and recommended that it come before you for approval. You also see a letter attached from the fire chief with no objection to subdivision property for. Yeah. with no objection.
Mr. Ray,
Recommended for
we
y'all.
need to hear you. Talk a little louder. No, don't turn it on. Just the mics are up there. Just talk higher so we can hear.
Okay. Like I said, this is the last fact that John and I approved before he left. Everything was in order. We got a letter from the fire chief stating of no objection or whatever. So basically it's to the board for their approval tonight.
Is it preliminary approval?
Preliminary approval. And Mr. Johnson has the original that he was signed with that date. We also put a place on there for you for the date. So
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Ron. Second by Leo, all in favor? Opposed? Next item, discuss possible grants for Assumption Parish.
Who put this?
Ron and Tommy.
Well,
the deal for next week.
Did I put it on
I thought you had some correspondence
I've
going
got some
on, and I think I
correspondence.
kind of got it mixed up a little bit. You sent the email out to everybody about meeting with someone from the state. as
Okay,
pertains to
all right. So
grants.
we're trying
I
to
think
set
that's
up a
what-
meeting with the people that handle the grants up in GOSEP to physically come down and meet with the jurors. And discuss certain things as it pertains to the grants. There's a new grant portal we're getting trained on. There were things that were brought up as far as a loan to the parish. And we found out some things about expedited pay to the parish. So we wanted to set up a meeting with GOSEP, get there 3 or 4 people down here, invite the police jurors to come into this meeting and let's just talk about these sort of things. There's processes, how to handle them, get Leonard involved with this and, you know,
Very good. I like it. So are you still gonna schedule a meeting or?
I've got some email correspondence. I think they gave me some tentative dates. I'll make sure to forward it to each of y'all. So you can check your calendars, and then we wanted to have it here. Ms. Kim had suggested to have it in the conference room by her office, but we're welcome to have it wherever now. It's
Or,
not a
yeah,
big
here
deal.
as well, but would it work better maybe at a 3 o'clock on a meeting day for you all? Come just
On a
go over the
Wednesday,
room?
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
try
make a
that.
note to that.
Yeah.
Before we move on from that, Mr. Chair. Leonard, do you have any update on any of the grants? I know I sent you a couple of links to some grants through FEMA and so forth. Are there any of those grants that you followed up on and learned any information to pass on to us?
Not yet, no, sir.
Just give us an update on what you have been working on, Lynn. If you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
No, like right now.
Okay, so right now I've been working on the capital outlay projects. I met with Mr. Joseph and he's been helping me out. And that's what I've been working on. And also some of the projects, some of the grant funding that we're looking for the Gilbert to Patty Park upgrades. I've been working on those as well. Like and I met with Brian Nunez with Department of Transportation, and he's been kind of helping us as well.
So capital outlay and CDBG is due next month. We roughly have 3 weeks left. Where are we? Are we about 35% complete of those applications?
Yeah, we're pretty much complete on the one for the building that we're gonna apply for, but I still need to meet with Mr. Joseph again on the other two for Bayou Crab Road and Bell Rose Lane. I still need to work on those other two as well, but we should definitely be ready to apply for November 1st.
Go by fast, Leonard.
It's here.
Quicker than what you think, so.
Yeah.
Would advise you to get with Mr. Salwa pretty soon.
Yes, sir. I'll
Set up a
schedule a meeting again.
You got one other thing I'd like to talk about with the grants real quick. There's a third-party company that actually comes in and does training on grants. They sell their various seats to people. They will market the dates and the place if we provide them a location, and they will give us free seats to attend this training. So I've approached them and they come up with some dates to be able to use the community center, put on this training. Again, they'll sell these seats and they'll give us 2 free seats to attend the training. Now, if they get so many people, so many more people, then we'll get additional seats, but it'd be no cost to us. We just have to provide a location to them.
Mr. Chair, would this be off the grid funding we've received from the state as pertains to the last hurricane? I think I mentioned that in the email, $4 million of hazard mitigation funds. Have we even discussed to talk about the wish list of the needs that we have of what we've been through from the last storm? I know we talked about restrooms at the community center. I know we talked about a bunch of things, but nothing, the money, I don't know if it's in account already, but it has been allocated towards us.
We don't get that money in advance, so keep in mind, we have to front that money. So that kind of dictates the type of project, you know, which could be in line with what the meeting Mr. Tommy's trying to set up, so we can utilize these different programs that are now being presented to us that we didn't know existed before.
Like this express pay program that was talked about. And then there again, we have the people who goes up there, they can elaborate on this.
But we're not gonna get that money in advance in our account, just to let you know.
But I know Mr. President, at many meetings, had talked about putting together something of everything that we went through
An after action review.
after this last storm. And we should have had some concrete things or things that we need, even though we hadn't received any funds or anything, we, you know, almost being shovel ready. And I feel as though we should
And I
address it.
I can't speak for the past. I can only say, but I can only say this, in the future, what I'd like to do after an event like that, I'd like to have an after-action review. Come up with some objectives of what we want to do and assign an action person to work that.
I think I do recall we had a special meeting to discuss that.
We did.
It was a recap.
Right, we did. Maybe we can pull those minutes and take a look at it and see if we had a checklist of some projects that we could maybe bring to light. But we did have a meeting to that effect.
All right, Mr. Chair.
That's it?
There.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5 and 6, I put on the agenda. I had spoken with Joseph about a year ago about the lighting at the walking trail. And about 6 months ago about the Bowler's boat launch, Corps of Engineer permit. And I know Joseph his workload is pretty heavy. And what I'm requesting is that we hire an engineer to do the Corps of Engineers permit and that lighting project.
The funding of these projects is going to be how? Federal funds?
I don't think it'll be no federal funds.
Well, that's what we have to make sure because that dictates
It would either have to come out of my
your
my
recreation.
drainage and my recreation. Have to find out
See what it costs,
what the cost would
see
be.
what the cost is.
Yeah,
I make a motion that we go ahead and hire that engineer.
okay.
Second.
They need a price too.
Motion by James, second by Michael, all in favor? Opposed?
So I assume we're going to just go ahead and advertise for this.
I think what I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna contact one to find out some kind of cost estimate on this. And then I'll bring it back.
Okay.
to the judge.
And Mr. Urban, to assist you, I have a lot of those numbers. I'll provide you with the budgets and costs that we already had completed and send that over to you. And just as a note, since you are, if you were to take these funds out of your recreational budget, as opposed to any government funding, this being a professional service, you are free and available to basically hire that service directly. In other words, it's not required to go out for an RFQ or anything if you're using in-house
Local
funds.
funds.
Yeah,
We would just need some type of scope.
Correct.
which Joseph said.
Yeah.
And I'll assist you with that. That's no problem.
okay, all right. Next item, we request of approval. Did we made a motion on this?
For 5 and
We
6.
voted on it?
Yes.
Okay. Request approval to go out for bids for Bertrand Drainage Canal Project, Ward 6.
Yes, I put this on the agenda. I think this project is, has been designed, ready to go.
That's correct.
And I think we need to start getting these projects complete. I think we've been sitting back, waiting. It's time to start putting these projects out for bid. I know the Fort Landing went out for bid. It came back, it's being done. Ready for the drainage project to go out for bid.
Motion.
Motion by Ron,
Second.
second by Jamie. All in favor?
All
Opposed?
Is that local funding?
No, this is the 1.5.
Okay, so we have to go out for RFQs.
So here's the dilemma that we have on this project. Whenever the stop was put on Savoy and he was notified that we have to go out for RFQ, the engineering for this project was already completed. Just as it was
For
for Tackleball.
So that means that the money that has been spent on that, they could audit us and say that we can't use the federal money to pay that, then that would have to come from our local funds. But from this point on, we want to
Right.
proceed and follow the regular federal guidelines.
But the project, the bidding phase, it's not an RFQ, it's going out for 30-day bid for a contract.
Because that's already done.
Because the engineering is
It's
already done.
Yeah, so that's going to be the same situation that we are with the Tackleball.
Yes, and basically, this contract was written written differently, and the reason I have not invoiced anything for the design on this project because the contracts for this Go Mesa drainage project was written as a flat fee based on the construction cost.
Mhm.
And so, since we don't have, it was never authorized to go out to bid, we don't have a construction cost to base that fee on. So basically, we're requesting at this point to put it out to bids, find out what that cost is. Then we would be able to tell you what that engineering fee is, what it would be out of pocket, and if whether you need to go pursue any other.
And that's what this board needs to be mindful of, is the Tackleball engineering and the engineering here. We would have to come up with those funds locally. But then from moving forward to go out for bid, Joseph just has to follow the federal guidelines, which he did for our Tackleball.
And
So that's
I
fine.
have placed the federal guidelines in this project as
As
well,
well.
so they're
So that's good. Okay.
they're covered.
What was your estimated cost on this?
I want to say this project, and I'll get you a hard number, but I want to say we were at about 100,000 in construction. So you're looking at about 10, or and that covers the surveying, design, and inspection.
So I have a question for you. Since you've completed the engineering
Correct.
side of it, is just the inspection the inspection portion of the project is to remain.
Yes, but
That's
there was
all
all, it's the way the contract's written, even that inspection portion, even if it goes over, let's say it's basically, it's a lump sum fee. So it's not an hourly rate. So it doesn't matter whether if it takes 2 extra, 2 or 3 extra weeks or whatever, we don't bill that hourly. I'm stuck to that fixed rate.
The design documents are ready to go out for bid now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, they are.
Got a motion, right?
So the motion was made by Ron, second by Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discuss the leasing of Shell Beach Road boat launch in Ward 9.
Demon met with them lately, he got some more.
All right, so each got a map of it. It's thing we out here along with Mr. Don, they're the property owners. So they're into agreement for leasing the boat launch and a property across the road from the boat launch for a total of $400 per month for a 10-year lease. After the 10-year lease is up, if you look at the second page, they would want to subdivide the 3 lots along the lakefront and attach the lot across the street as additional flag lots to make it 12,000 square feet lots in order to sell. And that's what their proposal is. Just want some feedback from the rest of the jury.
You said in order to sell?
In order to sell after the lease is up, after the 10-year lease is up.
So with no option to renew after 10 years?
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't get that question.
It's not to renew after 10 years,
We can discuss it at that point, yes,
in 10 years.
yes.
How much will we have to?
This is the first I hear about an option for another 10 years.
So come on up here.
State your name and address for the record, please.
I'm sorry, sir.
State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Shane Giat. I live in Donaldsonville.
So after the 10 years is up, Shane, would there be an option?
Yes, yes.
To rebid to
Renew it for another 10.
10 years.
Yes, sir.
So
Let's go 20. Let's go 20 and shut it off. I know we got to invest some money. We got to keep it up, right? We're gonna lease it, right?
Yeah.
Let's do 20 years. You know, go.
What are we currently paying for boat launches for leases, average?
$200.
$200.
I think some of the others will go up too, though. I think they're looking at someone going up in the serving board.
So this is what we propose. Marn would come up with $100. I would come up with $100
Of our recreation.
on our rec fund, and then $200 from the general fund. Per month.
In other words, it would be the regular.
Balance.
200.
Regular 200.
They always have taken $100 out of
Right.
restoration.
Right.
Yeah.
Go do a 20-year lease,
Guys, no approvals for the subdivision of the 3 lots.
either 20
So,
years.
I guess I'm not sure why there's a condition there that we have to approve the subdivision of the lots. If we're
Nothing to do with the lease.
Yeah.
Well, that's got to do with the 12,000 square foot minimum lot size. If
we can't do the lot size, we need the variance to do the lots, obviously.
But that's an LDH regulation. That's not a parish issue.
Like going across the street is gonna give us the 12,000 square feet per lot.
But again, that's an LDH requirement. You need to get a letter of no objection from the Department of Health in
Okay.
order for a variance from them in order to construct for the septic and drainage. The parish has no oversight of that. So
Okay.
again, I don't think the contingency would really be appropriate under these circumstances.
Okay, well, let's take that off the table for now.
Okay, so let's talk about that 20-year lease.
Yeah. We'll do 10 years with a CPI in 10 years.
Probably so, but I mean, I'm one of 4 partners. I'd have to approve that. And
Right,
It
right.
seemed like at
Yeah,
a
yeah.
meeting, it was talked about and approved, and I'm
But
not sure.
if we could go 10 to 10,
So you want a 4 partners, you say?
Yes.
yeah, you got another part.
They're representing the.
Yeah, we represent the 4 owners.
But with the condition that has changed, do you need to go back consult with them or not?
Not on that, no. Sir.
I'm fine with a 10-year term and then the option to
Option
renew as
to
long as we
renew
have.
As long as we have the option to
Option
renew
to
in 10
renew in
years.
the lease terms.
We good.
And
I'm almost certain I'm certain I can get the owners to go for that. And once I get the approval from them, do I get with Jamie, Myron?
Either one of us.
Okay, okay.
We definitely want to lease.
Can you go call them up, son?
So if we get 10 on 10, that'd be great.
Okay. And we agree that there will be a CPI adjustment in there at the end of the first term.
Right, well, I mean, the rate will be up for negotiation at that time. It'll be a new rate up for new negotiation. But if we can get 10 years at the 400 a month, I think we'd be okay with that. But with the option to renew in there, basically
Yeah,
first right of
You know, if we
refusal.
put money into it, we might want to keep it longer. You know?
That's why I
Just
suggested 20
go
years.
ahead and buy it.
I think that it really needs to be determined what we're gonna put into it. as
Right,
well,
right.
Because
Yeah,
there's
that's what-
money has to
we're
come
gonna
for that as
maintain,
well.
keep it up too.
Right.
That's why I suggested 20 years.
And the reason why, just to let everyone know, I know Jamie and I have discussed, and I know Myron's been involved, there are other sites that we're looking at having a permanent larger boat launch. As part of the recreation department, the recreation district there.
So we
So-
only may need it for 10 years.
Okay.
But just in case we don't, we have an extra 10.
We don't want to be on the hook having to pay them an extra 10 years and not need the place.
Okay, gotcha. Y'all got a plan in place. Gotcha.
And gentlemen, since I'm just hearing for this the first time, you have multiple boat launches throughout the parish. All you pay them is $200 per month.
Yeah.
So I just want you to consider that fact.
And
That because you're gonna pay an extra $200 per month for this one boat launch, you're gonna have all of the other people that are gonna now come next week or the week after, and they're gonna be asking.
They're already talking about it.
Okay,
And
but
that's
I'm just-
fine.
Again, I just want you to be aware.
I'll welcome that conversation. The amount of boats that this launch can handle is a lot more than what those other launches can handle.
No problem.
so you need a motion control. Just a-
We need to
Well,
get tangible
we may have
documents.
to
Documents first.
What we may have to do is get the square footage of each one of these boat
To
launches.
may have more of a fair allocation.
Right, it would be a fair amount, because like Leroy said, I know the one in my ward is a very small one, and this one looks like it's gonna be a very large one, so would that be the cause to get
Well, if
400?
we can move forward and getting those square footages and make that allocation, we can get that for our January 1 renewals.
Yeah,
Because this might not happen till for January
meeting,
1 anyway.
right.
This is gonna happen next meeting.
Next
Okay.
meeting.
Next meeting.
Next meeting.
What I propose is that I'll get with Mr. Palmville, I'll get a template lease if it's approved. We'll get it to you all so you can review it, and then we'll work through it so we can get approval at the next meeting.
Sounds good. Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Well, can you maybe get some square footage numbers for us, and so we can maybe look at the numbers and take it from there?
I can do it in Google.
But if we're basing it off $400, then it might make a deduction on some of these others, and that's not. gonna work.
No, they're not gonna.
Well, we have to look at it.
Change it. We'll get back.
Yeah.
with you.
So
We'll have to reduce that.
So we'll just make a motion that we move forward, allow the parish attorney to generate a lease agreement for a 10-year term.
Right.
That's a motion.
Motion by Leroy,
Second.
second by Jamie, all in favor? Opposed?
Thank you, guys.
Next item, request approval to advertise RFQ scope of work for Gomez project for engineering and design.
Okay, so I put this on the agenda. I know we have several Go Mesa projects out there. We identified that we need to go out for RFQ for these projects. I've had some conversations with Joseph. I also had some conversations with Mr. Blankenship. We have a lot of crossover in some of these projects that we've allocated money in from different pots. And I don't have a clear scope of work to issue an RFQ for some of these projects. So both of these gentlemen are going to meet with me after the meeting here, and then I'll meet with the Joe Roys individually for their projects to make sure that the short one sentence description that we have actually encompasses the scope of work that we need, because we're going to have a more detailed scope of work for the RFQ. We can't just go off for what we have in the descriptions that we have. So I'll table this at this time and we'll come back.
Leroy, I thought we had done this already, but is this some kind of way can be inclusive with Restore and the other monies as well? Or are we just gonna worry about the Gomez right now?
I don't see why I mean, it can be, it's not limited to Gomez.
Yeah, because the American Recovery is federal money too. So if once everything with the water sector is done with the sewer, we're gonna have to do the same thing, or should we just wait?
Detail into all federal.
Well, I think it's gonna be kind of revolving. We're not gonna do all of them at once.
Yeah. So
We're only gonna do a few at a
just
time,
Go Mesa.
because some are further along than others.
And Go Mesa is what we have the time period on with bond money.
That's
So.
right.
So you just want to table
Item
it?
9 table.
Do you really want to table or just get authority to do it? And once y'all ready to go,
No, because I want to make sure that,
they see something?
yeah,
Okay.
it's gonna take us 2 weeks to get these scope documents done. The scoring is set already.
Mhm.
We just need the scope of work to go along with the evaluation.
Okay.
Okay, next item is reevaluate approach to request capital outlay requests.
So I put this one on there also. So Mr. Lusky shared with me what Terrebonne Parish does whenever they're applying for these projects for capital outlay. And I feel that we may be limiting ourselves and maybe in good faith, but at the same time, other municipalities are getting funding when we're not. And basically what Terrebonne Parish has done, and Mr. Lusky, maybe you can expand on this, but they'll ask for just the engineering and design in the first year and basically phase the projects over the next 4 or 5 years. And if it gets funded in that year, they move forward with it. If it doesn't, it gets pushed to the next year. But it's a way that you can break up some of these bigger projects and start getting the engineering and design done. And we're not limiting ourselves to just one 100% funded project. We can break up the project and try to get some of these in there. And he's offered to help us get these into our capital outlay program at no cost to us. You know, so I think it's just something that we need to consider to allow him to work with Joseph and Leonard to see if there's any of these bigger ass projects that we can put in there just to break them up and get them in now.
So I would like to add where you have, say, a $20 million project, and then year one, you ask for the planning and the permitting environmental piece of it, which may be 10% of that. So you asking for, let's do a smaller job, but so 2 million or 200,000. And then year two, so you have 5 years, you put money into the 5 years along with priorities. They're gonna tell you what priority you fell in, and you can lobby for that. But year one, do planning and environmental, and then next one's E&D and surveying. And then year three, so you ramp up, you do 200, 200, and then 2 million, 3 million for construction over the next 2 years. And that way you'll roll it over, and then you can complete a whole project over 3 years. So it's a lot of times environmental the permit takes a year. So you start the planning, you start the environmental, you get it all put in, you get to a certain set of plans, and then you keep moving on it like that. So, and then only 3 projects, well, I can say pretty certain that way more than 3 projects were submitted. And you have the levy boards, you have different phases inside the parish that are working together as well. But it doesn't really apply here, but you can. You still talk to some of those guys and work on the Baker Canal and put that in and ask them if they can submit that on capital outlay. if they're getting funds on that, to do that piece of the dredging or whatnot. So just a different mindset of just saying, we need this much money to do this one project. You phase it all out. You put multiple projects in. So don't limit yourself.
In the projects that we have already identified that we would like 100% funded, we have the flexibility to talk to our legislative delegation to let them know what we prioritize in that list.
Yes, and send the email and get letters of support to include with your application when it goes in. So that way, everybody's already on board. When they have to go to the Capitol, they're already aware of this project. It's in their brain. You keep plugging at them, you keep hitting them. And that way, when they go there, they know like minimum, at least gotta get one thing done for the parish, right? This might be a hard sell, but I'll push for it. And you get different pieces that the neighboring, they making deals inside the Capitol. So that's the way I would recommend doing it. Don't just lobby, put yourself in a corner for 3 projects.
And no, all capital outlay projects, none of them are 100% funded. You do have a 25% match. So that's where we go and do our homework to get the matching funds along with staying engaged with your state delegation to try to keep moving your project along and on.
But
So it's a lot of work.
November 1st. So right now, I can tell you that we've already sent request letters, all the way to all the delegations asking for letters of support. So it needs to happen this week.
You paying attention?
Yes, ma'am.
So it has to be sent out early. And the last thing they want is get, ambushed with all these different letters from all these different locations. I didn't know about it. And what is this? At the last, it's due in 3 days. You can't have that. They don't care for that.
So you making a motion? You want to make a motion?
So I would like to see, I'd like to make a motion that we have GIS assist Joseph and Leonard in submitting some of the projects identified in the drainage master plan on our priority list. That we have already identified those priorities, but break those up into engineering and design, permitting first phase and second phase, basically based on your advice on how we split them up going forward.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Motion by Leroy, second by Jamie, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item, request approval and authorize the president to sign 21-22 CWEF contract.
I took a motion.
What's it?
It's the Community Water Enrichment Fund.
It's a new contract or a grant?
Yes, it's just the contract for 2021, 22. Just need the president to sign it.
What does the contract say? It's for a project?
No, it's
No, they sign that every year.
Mhm.
Yearly, they do the contract, right?
Yes, sir.
So is this a project that's already been awarded? Is this to be
Yes,
able
this
to
is a
apply for
project.
future
No,
projects?
this is a project that's already
Right,
awarded.
right.
What
Okay,
project?
what is the project?
I know it's with the waterworks.
Waterworks gets all of them.
Yeah.
That's easy. Is it for equipment or does it say in the, look towards the end of the contract, they're probably going to state what. We can table this and address it in the regular meeting.
It says potable water improvements.
So it's just an expansion of that normal.
The waterworks for the last, I want to say maybe 5 or 6 community water enrichment fund grants that we've had coming in have basically had a broad or very general scope of work that fits within their operation. As you all are aware, they're expanding their plant now. So they've been basically just rolling those community water enrichment funds into that because it fits. Everything goes right into the plant. They don't have a outline necessarily a specified project. They just keep saying plant improvements, and that might roll into valves, pumps.
Right.
All right, Leonard, just keep in mind, you're gonna have to work with Mr. BJ regarding this project as far as the timetable and when he can move forward and when it's complete, so we can submit our submission. He's gonna be the contact for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Motion by Michael,
Second.
second by Leroy. All in favor? Opposed? Next item is request approval to authorize and certify the president to sign the authorized signature form for the gap. Motion by Michael.
Anything to add before?
Can I add that Ms. Kim's the one to certify the president's signature?
Say it again.
I just need Ms. Kim to certify the signature.
He's
Add that in
already
the
signed it.
resolution.
I need to certify his.
So moved.
The motion. Floor by Mr. Diaz.
All right, the motion by Michael, second by who? By Leroy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Update on CDBG projects.
Yes, the CDBG projects. I'm also working closely with Mr. Joseph on that one. And then also I've been in contact with South Central Planning and Mr. Pat Gordon, and he told me he will be able to help us as well. For applying for that. For Belrose Lane.
We're on target to meet the application deadline?
Yes, sir. The application deadline's November 21st for this project. So also gotta be working on that one.
Leonard, I understand you're looking for them to help you with it, but please don't not move forward when you don't hear from them.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
still need to pull out past applications we've had to give you some guidance, and then they can maybe fill in the blanks for you.
And Leonard did meet with my office last week, and we basically sat down with all of the capital outlay projects as well as the CDBG projects and came up with, knowing their deadlines and their times, we prioritized them. And so we've been sending him the cost estimates and descriptions and assisting with completing those applications in order with that priority list to make sure that we meet those deadlines. And we are on track. He is on track to do that.
Motion adjourned by Leroy, second by Jamie. This is the longest engineer.
It was a good one. Yeah.
So do we need to allocate that much time for Joseph and GIS every meeting? Because that was 40 minutes. Do we need
I
that?
don't think that's the first time Joseph gave an update in 6
Yeah.
months.
I know, but is it
Yeah,
gonna be
you
every
only get one
meeting?
every
Okay, not every meeting.
We'll now start the regular scheduled meeting. Let the record reflect that all members are present with the exception of Mr. Hakeem. We'll start by a roll, by a prayer led by myself in the pledge, followed by Mr. Carter. God who teaches us by sending the light of his Holy Spirit into our hearts, grant that by the light of that Spirit, right judgment may be ours, and that we may forever find joy in his guidance.
One nation under God, indivisible with liberty.
First, we've got request approval of the minutes of September the 28th, 2022, was previously provided to you. Motion by Mr. Como, second by Mr. Diaz, all in favor? And nays, motion carried. Now, we have a public comments period relative to anything that's on the agenda. Public comments, going once, going twice. 3 times, let the record reflect that there's no public comments.
Everybody left.
Next, we have the Drainage Committee report chaired by Mr. Ponville.
Right, the Drainage Committee meeting was held this afternoon. We approved the culvert replacement at 727 Brewley Road. We approved the Lower Texas levee project at excavator rental. We approved the culvert replacement at 218 Virginia Street. We approved to sweep the outfall in Brewley Motoring Community. Approved culvert replacements for 542 Bayou Drive, 146 James Street, and 141 Agnew Street. And I present this all in form of a motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Ponville,
Second.
second by Mr. Blanchard, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. 5 p.m. we had the Finance Committee meeting chaired by myself. First item we had was request approval to pay bills submitted through October the 7th, 2022. Second, we had discussed and consider the revision of Louisiana revised statute 33:1233 regarding police jury compensation. For the most part, we agree, Kim, on it that.
We're gonna go call for public hearing.
Public hearing, very good. Also request approval of the president to sign fiscal year 2023 emergency management performance grant in the amount of $40,561.40. Fourthly, we requested approval of the highest bidder for unusable vehicles and equipment. Had no discrepancies with those. Had two items that are yet to be bidded out. Also, we had request approval for the president to sign the second amendment of the low-income home energy assistance program. That is LAHEAP, an agreement from 10/1/2021 through 9/30/2023, in the amount of $12,309. Motion by Mr. Carter, second by Mr. Diaz. All in favor? Nays? Motion carried. Next, we have Personnel Committee chaired by Mr. Carter.
This Personnel Committee met, all members present. First, we approved for inflationary period for Kenny Washington to be effective 10/6/2022. Next, we discuss the direction of the employee evaluation for 2023, which we agreed that all employees beginning January 1st, all rates would be based on merit. Also, we agreed that all evaluation for this year are due by December 1st. We also authorized the Secretary of Trade to put in the 6% and for the budget for raises for this year.
Yep.
Next thing we had was discuss the Christmas party for the police jury staff. We agreed to do it on December the 9th from 7 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Before you make that motion, Mr. Carter, you want to say anything about Mr. Nicholas?
Okay, the deviate.
Do we need to deviate for it? It's just.
No, I don't think we need to deviate. I mean, I think Mr. Nichols turned in his resignation. I just want to thank him for his service. The short time that he was here. Well, now I think he's moving on to something that he's more
Versed with, yeah.
Yes, if he has degrees with it, it's gonna better benefit him. But he did an outstanding job in the short time that he was there.
I agree.
I agree. Who could be out of time for?
Put it out.
Yeah, I did to those same words. He did a good job, and he put the template together, whereas if someone else is coming in, they can just follow the template that's provided to help them through that process.
Who's gonna make the site inspections until we fill that role? How would we handle it?
Is Ms. Carroll certified to do it? Can Ms. Carroll do it?
I don't know if I don't think there's any specific certification it requires. So she could be able to do it as long as she has the knowledge. And as given she was training Mr. Ray, I would think she.
Yeah, she's pretty.
Yeah, she's been there, yeah, right, and she knows the parish, yeah.
So.
Every time you call, you talk to her.
Very good. So the motion by Mr. Carter. Second by Mr. Powney. All in favor? Any nays? Next, we had engineers committee meeting chaired by Mr. Coleman.
Okay, the engineering grant committee met this afternoon. All members were present except for Mr. Jeff Narcan, who was given an engineer's report by the parish engineer and also GIS engineer. We approved MOU. Well, no, we didn't approve that. I'm sorry. We approved a subdivision of property along Macy Lane in Bell Rose. We approved to look into getting an engineer for the Bylers boat launch Corps of Engineers permit and also the Bylers walking trail lighting. We approved to go out for bid for Bertrandville Drainage Canal project. We approved the lease on Shell Beach Road, a 10-year lease with the option to lease another 10 years. We approved to reevaluate the approach to request capital outlay request and also approved the GIS assist Joseph and Leonard in the endeavor. We approved and authorized the president to sign 21-22 CWEF contract. We approved the authorized, certified the president to sign an authorized signature for the gap. And we've given an update on CDBG projects, and it's all in the form of a motion.
Motion by Mr. Como, second by Mr. Carter, all in favor? Any nays? We have request approval of an occupational license for Bayou Grave Cleaning in Boynville. Motion by Mr. Diaz, second by Mr. Carter, all in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Next, we have request approval to replace Tower LeBlanc with Robert, I'm sure that's my bill.
Yeah, I finally found somebody, so I want to go ahead and make that motion.
So we just don't put it on the agenda.
Took you a long time.
Motion by Mr. Como, second by Mr. Blanchard, all in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Next, we have approved the first phase of the derelict structure procedure for the dwelling located at 151 Frank Lane in Bell Road, Community.
So move.
Second.
You got the picture in the back of your,
Motion by Mr. Alcone, second by Mr. Blanchard, all in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. I think we have some deviations.
Yes.
Okay. First deviation is additional allocation of $27,000 for Bayou Lafourche Walking Trail project. Next one would be authorized for the president to sign the Section 8 annual civil rights certification. All right, so motion to deviate by Mr. Carter, second by Mr. Diaz. All in favor? Any nays? Motion carried. Again, on the first one, Tim, right here, an additional allocation of $27,000 for Bayou Lafourche Walking Trail project.
Right.
Okay, the last thing I want to do is have to come back to you guys, but the last time we spoke, made you guys aware that the construction bids for the Napoleonville multi-trail connection came in severely over budget. So we were able to get additional grant funds, not only from the Chapel Heritage area, but also from recreational trails. At the end of the day, where we're at right now is $27,000 short. The project is fully designed. We've gone out for bid. We have the low bid. And luckily, he has held his bid for the last month and a half, 2 months far. So I've got the agreement from the state. They have committed $199,000 plus some change. Friends of Lafourche has committed $26,000. Chapel has committed $20,000. Along with the in-kind work and cash that you guys have put up. So where we're at is 27,000 short. Everything is ready to go. Everything is ready to go on this project.
I second this motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Diaz for the 27 to be removed from his rec fund, and second by Mr. Carter, all in favor?
Oh, wait, you got public comment.
Yeah, okay. I'm ready to move on with it. Okay, so we ask for public comments. Public comments for deviation on once, one, twice, 3 times. Let the record reflect that there is no public comment. Motion by Mr. Diaz, second by Mr. Carter. All in favor? No, the alcohol? I'm sorry, what alcohol? All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries.
Are y'all gonna invoice us for those, or how y'all wanna handle it?
So from a legal perspective, we have a CEA with you guys. Do we just amend that
I'm
current
fine with
CEA?
whatever, an amendment will be fine, and then we can then disperse funds accordingly. Or we had talked before about buying direct, depending on what we were doing with the installation of that equipment. So Ryan and I will talk on the side, and then we'll work that out, but it can be done through that CEO.
Very good. Thank you, guys. Yes, sir. We'll do. Thank y'all again.
All right, and the last thing we had was the authorized president to sign the Section 8 annual civil rights certification.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Como, second by Mr. Blanchard, all in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Motion adjourned.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carter. Second by Mr. Conley, all in favor? Any nays?